I am not the original poster. So, me and my wife have a 5-year-old son. Our group of friends is mostly couples with kids, as we are nearing our 40s, and so a lot of our meetings with friends now include meeting up as entire families, kids included. This can sometimes mean a lot of adults and a lot of kids. One person in this group, Emma, fake name, used to be my roommate in college. She was married and has her own kids, and we hang out with her and her husband sometimes in a group setting, but rarely on our own. Emma also tends to run late, often. This is all relevant to the story. As our son is an only child, we sometimes worry that he wouldn't really learn to share or get along with other kids. To prevent this, and while I love spending time with him, I would sometimes preemptively nudge him to engage with other kids when we are in public playgrounds or at the beach or the pool. To that end, when I buy him a water pistol or an RC car or the like, I'd often just buy 2 or 3. I'd get to the playground and play with him, and when another kid would show interest in the toys, I'd just go, "Oh, you want to play with us?" and hand him the remote or the pistol or the whatever, thus getting the kids to play. This works great quite often, and I have a generally good relationship with the parents in our neighborhood. This is also relevant. One day, like a year back, me and my wife were planning on taking our kid to the pool. I pack my large bag of pool toys. Emma texts me. Her husband is away that day, and she's looking for something to do with the kids. I talk to my wife and tell Emma we're going to our local pool, and she's welcome to join us, but we're planning on heading there early so she can just join us whenever. We arrive at the pool pretty early and get a really good spot poolside, right by the shallows. I grab some water pistols, and me and my kids start playing world domination. I am trying to take over the world and can only be stopped through the power of water pistols. It's a whole thing. Kid loves it. Soon another kid is there. It's a kid from my son's kindergarten class. He's there with his mom. He is, of course, welcome to join us. We know the family. The mom and my wife are pretty friendly, and our kids play together often. So my wife says she wants to go for a swim, and the kid's mom says she wants to join her and asks me if I'm okay watching the kids. I say sure, since by this point the kids are blasting each other with water pistols and I'm just chillin' poolside, just occasionally having to call out, "Oh no, my plans for world domination, ruined," because sometimes that's just what parenting is. Then Emma and her kids show up. She is really happy to see me, and I give out toys to her kids. All is going well. Then, my son's friend runs up and asks for some other toy, and I go sure thing and hand it to him. Emma goes, "Oh my God, so cute. He looks just like you." I laugh and say, "Okay, cool, but this isn't my kid." Now, in her defense, the kid does look kinda like me, making this kinda hilarious. When my wife and the kid's mom come back, I tell them this story. They also find it hilarious. We all have a friendly chuckle, but think little of it. Fast forward to a few months ago. I haven't seen Emma in a while. We are at a friends group gathering, and it was a good time all around. When we're about to call it a day, me and Emma are at the entrance. She's grabbing her stuff, and I'm on my second trip from the car, kids' toys, kids' clothes, dirty dishes, Tupperware with leftovers I want, etc. And I call out to Emma's husband, "Hey, can you call my wife and kid over? Just make sure it's actually my kid and not some random kid who kinda looks like me." I think it's a hilarious callback. He seems confused and kinda angry. He asks what the hell I'm talking about. Why would he call a random kid? I'm also confused, so I tell him the pool story. He doesn't laugh. Emma doesn't laugh either. The entire thing now feels kinda awkward. I awkwardly say goodbye, go grab my wife and kid myself, and we leave. Later that day, I text Emma to ask if everything is all right. I get no reply. I text again a few days later. No reply. I get the distinct sense I messed up, but also if she doesn't want to talk to me, I'm not going to force the issue. I leave well enough alone. At worst, I thought she was mad at a joke I made, which was apparently in poor taste. Boy howdy, did I underestimate the fallout of this joke. A few days ago, I arrive at a friend's place, and she's there. This is an engagement party, so no kids. I wasn't supposed to come, but decided to last minute, and my wife was at home with our kid. Emma sees me and is livid. She wasn't expecting to. She only came because she thought I wouldn't be here. She does, however, take the opportunity to tear me a new one, though. She calls me out in front of everyone. Because of my joke, originally said with air quotes, her husband was furious. From what she said, and what I gathered from mutual friends afterwards, she previously commented on someone else's kid looking like someone who wasn't his father. Except that whole thing led to family drama in Emma's husband's family, because in that case, that dude was cheating, and that was his kid, and a whole bunch of people were really hurt in the aftermath. Emma's husband was furious because he apparently thought she would know better than to comment on kids looking like people again. This sent them down a spiral, especially because the husband apparently thought she told me that other family story and that I was mocking him for his family drama, and he thought the story I told was just covering for her when I realized I messed up. This was not the case. I had no idea that whole thing happened. Still, he didn't believe Emma when she told him, so they are now separated. She calls me a jerk and says I ruined her marriage. I am not a confrontational person. I apologize profusely. I say I didn't know, and if she didn't want me telling the story, she should have said something. She tells me I'm making excuses. This is now a scene. I apologize profusely again and leave quickly after telling the couple a quick congratulations. I am later told this was anything anyone could talk about at the party, and now the engaged couple are mad at me too. Emma is even more mad because now everyone knows her drama. I am unfriended and unfollowed on everything. Some friends think I couldn't have known better, and the joke was pretty benign. Other friends say it was in really poor taste to throw her under the bus, and I am totally the jerk. Emma's best friend, who I also know from college, thinks I did know about the thing with her husband, and now I'm just covering my own butt to get away with being cruel. It has been a few days, and some of my friends will no longer talk to me. Others think she is wrong to blame me, and that marriage was doomed anyway. Still, I feel really guilty about making the joke, and I obviously wouldn't have made it had I known the trouble it would cause. I like Emma, and I didn't want to hurt her. I also liked her husband. I'd like to say that maybe he was wrong to let the marriage implode like that because of a stupid joke, but at the same time, I don't exactly know his family drama and their history, nor the specifics of his relationship with Emma, so I can't really say he's wrong or overreacting. The entire thing just kind of sucks. My wife sort of got my back, though. She thinks the joke was hilarious and actually thinks me breaking up their marriage makes it even funnier because WTF. She also loves crazy Reddit stories, so she sent me to post this. So at least I got that going for me, which is nice. So, am I the idiot? Now for the update. I am now updating you because the last few hours have been a lot. It turns out that when I wrote my post, I left out one critical piece of context. I thought I was a regular person living a normal life. Turns out I am Chaz, a side character on the worst Gossip Girl episode ever written. So after posting yesterday, reading replies and thinking it over, I decided to reach out to Emma one final time. Some of you thought I shouldn't, and that these were in fact not my monkeys. Others made me realize that Emma was probably in a shitty situation with her husband and his family and was actively being gaslit. Now, of note here, while as I mentioned, we're not as close as we used to be very close. She helped me pick out a spot and let me borrow her car for my first date with who later became my wife. She was a significant part of my support system during some very rough times in my life. Despite everything, I still felt like I cared about her and wanted to work things out. This is no longer the case. See, from my perspective, I thought we were good friends. Then when she met her husband, we naturally drifted apart, and then this thing happened out of nowhere. This was not what it looked like from her perspective. How do I know? Well, buckle up because this is absolutely unhinged. So last night, before going to bed, I text her a long, thoughtful message. I explained that I do apologize for the part I played in ruining her marriage, and I understand she is going through a tough time. I understand if she wants nothing more to do with me, but if and when she feels she wants to talk it out, she is welcome to reach out, and I leave the ball in her court. I show this to my wife, and she is practically giddy. She tells me there is no way this shoot doesn't blow up in my face, and I should have just cut my losses, like many of y'all said. Emma shows up at my house at around 7 a.m. unannounced. I ask WTF. She says she really needs to talk to me. I call my wife to the door and explain this. She sends me off with this woman because she understands this shoot can only go poorly, and apparently she is here for it, and it's my own fault at this point. So as I said, from my perspective, we were friends. We drifted apart. From her perspective, for the last 15 years, she has been playing some weird game of 4D chess. Or 2 different games of 4D chess. Apparently, she had feelings for me back in college, and she was trying to nice girl her way into a relationship with me by being there for me when my dad died and when I was struggling with being single. She always gave everything because she just assumed I would, at some point, come around. You'd think that me getting married or her getting married would change that, and it did. Just badly. Apparently her husband knew about her feelings, which is why he always kept me at a distance. We never drifted apart. He explicitly asked her not to meet with me anymore outside of large social gatherings. That day at the pool? Yeah, that was her sticking it to him because he was away, cheating on her or something, and he didn't like her hanging around me scantily clad. It wasn't just that he was upset at the joke. He was upset because apparently I was having an affair with his wife and rubbing it in his face. Makes no sense? I know. It gets worse. That thing at the wedding? Well, at least she didn't plan that. I told our friends getting engaged that I wasn't coming. She asked and verified this. She wasn't expecting to see me, and they told her I wouldn't be there. But once I showed up, she decided to exploit it. She intended to have a huge scene with me so that she could tell her estranged husband and friends that I ambushed her because she broke off our affair. Our affair. Apparently, we had an affair. Oh, what affair is that, you ask? I did too. Apparently, the story some people got was that she and I were having an affair, and it ended, and I was stalking her. Her husband left her because he found out. So people more inclined to believe her just thought that was what happened and wanted nothing to do with me anymore. So why did her husband actually leave? Well, some of you called it. According to her, he was cheating on her a bunch, and overall, not a nice person. She never actually cheated on him, but used me to pretend that she did without my knowledge. So after the joke at the gathering, which may have indeed been in poor taste, they had a huge fight, and he left the house. As for the thing with his family, from what I gather, it was some dude sleeping with his cousin's wife or some such shoot. So anyway, she tells me all this insanity and tops it off with that my message really moved her, and we can still be friends. The reason she rushed to show up at 7 a.m.? My message made her realize I am actually the only one who really cares about her, and everyone else in her life is fake and don't really care. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but now this sounds like some really manipulative shoot to me, and now I'm thinking back to a lot of our previous interactions, and a lot of them also seem like that to me now. I'm not a confrontational person. I was willing to accept that I messed up. Maybe some of you were right, and the joke was in poor taste, and I'm a huge jerk for making it because I thought that if he knew the story, he would get the callback, and if he didn't, I'd tell him a funny story about his wife. I accept all that criticism. But this? No. I was done. I tell her I am done with her nonsense. She can get back to her husband, leave her husband, keep any friends she wants because I am done. I can forgive a lot, but she had been basically not communicating with me for over 15 years. I was telling her everything about my life and my feelings, and I was absolutely appalled by just how much of a one-way street it turned out to be. I feel like I didn't ever really know her. Maybe I played a role in that too. Maybe I was self-centered or selfish and didn't consider her emotions or her signs. I don't know. And you know what? At this point, I don't think it matters. She lied to me so much. She lied to so many people so much. I just don't care anymore. I don't think there's anything left to this friendship to fix. And the worst part, I just gave you this huge update, and I genuinely don't know how much of it is true. Maybe she was completely honest with me. Maybe she lied about everything, and we're still playing 4D chess. Who knows? I certainly don't. And that, more than anything, is why this friendship is over, because even if I could forgive everything, I can never really trust her. So that's that. There will probably not be any more updates because this was meant to be a lighthearted post and it turned into a total mess, and I'm just so tired and so sad. I'm sorry if this wasn't as readable or as coherent as my previous post. This just happened, and I am just exhausted. My wife has been very supportive, though I assume at some point I'm due some well-earned "I told you so's." She knows there wasn't an affair and certainly no stalking, and most of my friends probably know that too. I may try reaching out to some others because, well, I don't know, maybe they were told even worse things about me, but I am just done with this. And now I am going to spend what's left of this weekend with my family and try to put this behind me. Thank you all for reading and for your advice. Am I the idiot for confronting my wife after she hid my daughter's existence for 5 years? My wife deleted a message from my ex telling me that she was pregnant 5 years ago. It's been almost 2 weeks since I found out. We've done the tests, and she's mine. My ex had sent me a message a couple of weeks before giving birth, telling me about everything. My then-girlfriend and present wife saw that my ex sent me a message and deleted it, then blocked her, apparently without reading it. My ex took that as me not wanting to be involved and raised our daughter all alone. For 5 years. My daughter is turning 5 in a month, and I haven't even met her. Every time I think about how much I missed out on, I just lose it. I know I must focus on what I've gained instead of what I've lost, but damn, it's hard. It's taken me 2 hours just to write this out. I don't even want to start on what my ex had to go through alone, and the desperation to reach out to my mother for help when she hates her nearly more than me. My wife says she's remorseful, that she was just very immature at the time and didn't think it could be that important, so much so she forgot about it. I've never loved anyone more than my wife. She supported me through so much. I believe that she actually feels bad and regrets it. She's pregnant, about 21 weeks pregnant, with our first child together. We're currently separated while I deal with everything, but I don't know how we'll move forward after this. Now for a few comments. When asked how he found out, he said, "My ex asked my mother for some cash for our daughter, and then my mom chewed me out for being a deadbeat. Asked her what she was talking about, and she told me about my ex and how I blocked her. Mentioned it to my wife, who admitted there was a time where she deleted a message from my ex and blocked her. Another commenter suggested therapy, and he replied, "In all honesty, I was a shoot boyfriend to her, especially towards the end, so I can't blame her for not trying harder to contact me. That's on me. I do want to forgive her. As I said, I believe she was just being childish in the moment, but damn, that was some bad timing. I'm not entirely sure I can forget about this. When asked if he believed his wife deleted the message without reading it, he said, "There's obviously that little devil saying that she read it, but I refuse to believe she knew about this and didn't tell me all this time." Now for the 10-day update. I met with my ex last week just to properly explain myself and discuss the whole what nows. It didn't end up being productive and was mostly filled with awkward silence and a few miniature arguments. Towards the end, she said that she'd been talking to a lawyer and didn't want me to be involved and will be seeking full custody of our daughter with no visitation, as well as suing me for back child support and getting me on child support. So that was fun. To be clear, I was always going to provide more than my fair share for any child of mine. I really don't know how any of this works, but I haven't received anything from the court or something, so it could have just been a threat, but she seemed serious. Regardless, I decided to find myself a lawyer to help me, instead of waiting around, and eventually got linked with an old friend's brother whom I'm meeting tomorrow, which is great. My wife and I are trying to work things out. Due to the lawyer-court situation, financially speaking, we couldn't get an actual therapist, but my wife's pastor offered to provide marriage counseling for us. We only had 2 sessions before the family drama broke out, and we temporarily put counseling on pause. Basically, the thing about my wife deleting the message leaked out to the rest of the family, which has led my wife to get uncivil messages from a couple of family members. My lovely older sister also decided to add to the fire by posting about this on her FB. My wife has locked herself at home since and is taking everything quite badly since even her friends now know and have distanced themselves from her. I'm actually quite worried about it, but at least her mom is there with her, and I try to check on her regularly. It's all just overwhelming. When I'm not thinking about my daughter, I'm thinking about my ex. When I'm not thinking about my ex, I'm thinking about my family drama. And when I'm not thinking about that, I'm thinking about my marriage and the pregnancy. And there's still work, so it's been a really terrible week. Finding it hard to maintain optimism and excitement for my daughter when all this has happened. Just a shoot situation all around. Then a few commenters had some thoughts. One commenter noted, he admits he was a horrible boyfriend to her and pushed her away. So when she sent the text telling him about the baby and he didn't respond, it was probably par for the course for how he had always treated her and wasn't surprised, so had no reason to want to involve a guy who would treat her that way in her daughter's life. I'm not saying she's blameless, but he sure as shoot isn't. And he still hasn't answered the last post questions about whether the wife purposely deleted the texts knowing what they said. Another commenter asked if he pressed his wife on if she read the text or not, and he replied, "I didn't want to push it too much, but I did sit her down and ask her again, and she assured me that she never read it. Only saw that it was from my ex and deleted it based on that." When asked about the message thread, he said, "I don't have that phone anymore, so I don't know if she deleted the message or the thread." Now for the 3-month update. I've met my daughter, my ex, and I handled the custody and support agreement ourselves, still signed off by the court. We're both committed to making this co-parenting thing work, and it's been going well so far. My wife and I are back at home and both excited about her nearing due date. We've decided to move on. The last update ended with my ex threatening to fight me in court. Well, the lawyer I'd arranged suggested we give mediation a try and set that up with her lawyers and this mediator. Overall, the mediation went quite poorly and seemed to be more detrimental to us ever cooperating. We only had 2 actual sessions, and both were just filled with unnecessary fighting and no resolution. Funny enough, it was the chaos at the mediation that kind of proved to both of us we weren't interested in fighting each other indefinitely, and she reached out late in the evening after the second mediation, asking to meet up the next day. In that meeting, we talked things out and listened to one another. We sorted through some baggage from our relationship and spoke about what exactly had been going on the past 5 years. It was an hours-long conversation, but it was totally worth it. We agreed that we'd make it work and put our daughter at the forefront. A meeting was arranged for me to drive over and see my daughter face to face, and I did. At the time, I wasn't introduced properly to her as her father, and she was obviously cagey around this random dude, but it was still great seeing her that first time. She is seeing someone to help with my transition into her life, and I've since been properly introduced to her, and she started calling me Papa. So things are going stunningly smooth, and she's coping really well with it all. Plus, my ex has floated around the idea that if she could find a job or better job where I am, she'd consider moving. So distance isn't too big of a problem, though that's still a big if. For now, I'll just keep driving up to her until we're acquainted enough to allow her to make the trip to me. The last update on my wife left things at my sister posting about everything and my family fighting with my wife. My sister has removed the post and apologized to my wife, although not sincerely, but still an apology. Still ongoing, but attempts at reconciling my family and wife are going more or less well. My wife momentarily moved to stay with her parents to get away from everything for about a month, but has since moved back to the house with me, as we're soon expecting the birth of our child in the upcoming weeks. All extremely excited over that, and we've worked through our issues. I'm sure most of you will be disappointed by this, but I do 100% believe my wife and trust that she isn't some conniving person. She's still the woman I love, and we're all to blame for the circumstances that led to this whole situation. All we can do is focus on the future. Big thanks to everyone who's offered their support and wishes as well as advice. I truly do appreciate all of it. And that's it. Signed off, a happy dad of almost 2. Now for a few comments. One commenter said, "Not disappointed, buddy, just disbelieving. But if you thinking this keeps you warm at night and your family together, then more strength to you." Another commenter added, "I think this will be one of those things that festers. Behavior such as that is indicative of an awful personality, no matter how well she hides it, and something else will eventually be the straw to break the camel's back. Just lots of emotional turmoil until then." Luckily for OP's wife, her current bargaining chip is being heavily pregnant. Hard for a man to leave his wife in that position. A different commenter expressed, "It's great that you've reconciled with the woman you love. I wish you well with both of your children and in your marriage. That said, she absolutely read the message from your ex. No woman in the history of the world would look through her partner's messages, see one from his ex, and delete it without reading. That's just not how people behave. Even in the most poorly written piece of fanfic that would stand out as a ridiculous contrivance, it's perfectly okay to forgive everyone, especially yourself. What matters now is where you go from here. You've rightfully put your children first. Just try to make sure that you look out for yourself as well. Good luck and congratulations." Finally, another commenter noted, "I'm so glad you can trust someone who deliberately prevented you from being a father for 5 years. Am I the idiot for cutting off my parents after they hid my hereditary illness from me and my siblings? I, female 28, recently found out I have a serious hereditary illness that's going to screw up my life, and I am so mad I can barely type this out. It's a degenerative illness, no cure, nothing. My body's just going to slowly get worse. And the kicker? My parents have known this could happen my whole life and never said a damn word. This illness runs in my family. My dad's mom had it. His sister, my aunt, died from it a few years ago. I was living overseas when she passed, and my parents told me it was cancer. Cancer. They lied right to my face. It wasn't until I got diagnosed that they finally came clean and admitted she had the same illness I do. When I confronted them, my dad wouldn't even give me a straight answer. I asked if he had it too, and he dodged every single question, acting like I was overreacting. My mom, on the other hand, tried to justify it by saying they didn't want me living in fear. Are you kidding me? I could have been prepared. Instead, they chose to let me walk into this blind. And here's where it gets worse. I have a 2-year-old son. My child might have this, and they never told me I was at risk. I could have had him tested, made informed decisions, anything. But no, they took that from me, and now I live in constant fear for him too. Then my mom had the nerve to ask me if I would have rather not been born than deal with this. Can you believe that? She turned it around on me, like I'm the monster for even thinking it. And you know what? Yes, I said it. Yes, I would rather not have been born than deal with this disease. They made a selfish choice, and now I'm paying for it. They knew the risks and did it anyway, for themselves. They wanted kids, and now I'm stuck with this. I called them selfish, and I meant every word. Now, they're begging me not to tell my younger siblings. They don't know about this yet, haven't been tested, and my parents want to keep it that way. They're hoping they'll get lucky, but I'm not going to lie to them. I refuse to let them be blindsided like I was. They deserve to know the truth. I've gone low contact with my parents. I can't stand to even think about them right now. My mom keeps trying to guilt trip me, saying they were just trying to protect me. Protect me from what? The truth? No, they weren't protecting me. They were protecting themselves from the guilt of knowing they passed this on, and now they want me to protect them too. But I won't. I love my son and my siblings too much to lie to them. Am I the jerk for going low contact and refusing to keep their secret, even though they claim they were just trying to protect me? Update. I ended up telling my siblings. We met at my sister's house, and I just came out with it. I have Huntington's. It's hereditary. You should both get checked. My brother started panicking. He and his fiancée just started trying to get pregnant, and now he's terrified. He's furious with our parents and fully on my side. He confronted them right after, and now we're both going low contact. My sister was more shocked and distant, but she said she'll get tested. My parents are pissed that I told them without waiting for the right time, but I don't regret it. My siblings deserved the truth, and I wasn't going to let them live in ignorance like I did. Now for the update. I told my siblings. We met at my sister's house. and I just came out with it. I told them what I had and said that it was hereditary. My sister thanked me for telling her, told me she would get tested but seemed distant. I get it, it is very heavy. So I have been giving her space, but made it clear that I am there for her. My brother looked horrified. He and his fiancée had just started trying for a baby, and the fear in his eyes was immediate. His fiancée, who works as a senior nurse in palliative care, didn't take it lightly either. She deals with degenerative diseases every day and had a family member die from one, so this news hit her hard. She immediately took control of the situation. She has a lot of connections in the medical field because of her work, and she's been pulling strings to get my brother's test done as fast as possible. She's also been making sure I get the care I need, reaching out to specialists she knows personally. She's actually moving things around and calling in favors to ensure I'm seen quickly. On top of that, she's been adamant that I need to see a counselor, pushing me to get emotional support. Given her experience, she knows how hard this is going to be, and I'm grateful she's making it happen, because I wouldn't know where to begin. My husband and I have also been having difficult conversations about the future. We've decided to make my will, and I've been clear with him about when I won't want to continue living if things get too bad. I've also started recording videos for my son. I watched P.S. I Love You years ago, and the idea of leaving something behind for my husband and son feels like a way to hold on to a part of me. We're planning to speak to a child psychologist soon to figure out the best way to prepare our son for what's coming, though we haven't started yet, and also to weigh our options about him and the possibility of him getting this illness from me. We are not going to make an uninformed decision. On Saturday, our parents invited all of us over to their house, saying they wanted to talk. My sister came too, but she didn't stay long. As soon as my parents started explaining how they kept the illness hidden to protect us, she couldn't take it. She stood up, said she couldn't handle it, and left. She's been distant since, and it feels like I've lost her a little. I know she's terrified, but it still hurts to see her pulling away. After my sister left, everything exploded. My parents turned on me, blaming me for ruining the family and accusing me of causing all this chaos by telling the truth. They kept saying they did it to protect us, but I just couldn't respond anymore. That's when my brother's fiancée stepped in. She completely laid into them, telling them that they had no right to keep something this serious from us. She told them they hadn't protected us, they had betrayed us, and I was so relieved she stepped in because I didn't have the energy to argue anymore. Then my dad snapped. He started shouting at her, telling her to stay out of it, and he shoved me. I couldn't even react. I was so shocked. My husband immediately stepped between us, grabbed my dad's arm, and told him he'd better never touch me again. My dad just kept shouting, saying I was the one who was tearing the family apart and blowing everything out of proportion. That was it. We left. My brother and his fiancée walked out with us, and since then, none of us have spoken to my parents. They've been calling, but I don't want to hear their excuses. They're still insisting they did everything to protect us, but it feels like they were just protecting themselves from guilt. I don't have the energy for their manipulations anymore. Right now, my brother and I are focused on getting tested. His fiancée is doing everything she can to keep things moving forward. She's been an incredible support, and we're relying on her to help us navigate what's next. I'm focusing on my son, my husband, and preparing for the future. There's too much at stake to keep fighting about a secret that never should have been kept in the first place.